everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to Mystical Munchies, featuring the Disney villain's devilishly delicious cookbook. The Flotsam and Jetsam party mix ended up having more of a kick than I expected, but the kick is a matter of taste. The recipe did turn out, so no need for a redo on that one. With that, we're on to the side this week, Croquet Croquettes. Let's tell the story first for this recipe. Do you play croquet? The Queen of Hearts asks Alice. Why, yes, Your Majesty, she replies. Then let the games begin. These croquettes are a delicious side or snack. Before or after croquet, no beheadings necessary. Add some ham or broccoli, or both, for variety. As usual, the ingredients are waiting for us over at the table, so let's head in that direction. The scissors and the crystal light are not part of the recipe. Scissors are to open the crystal light containers, and the crystal light is my drink in case my throat gets dry. So, we need 5 medium russet potatoes, which are peeled and coarsely chopped, a 1/4 cup or half a stick of butter, a cup of sharp cheddar cheese. I'm using reduced fat, of course, 2 egg yolks, which I've got the first one separating out in the kitchen, 1½ tablespoons of dried parsley. Hopefully I have enough in there, but I should. A teaspoon each of salt and pepper. A cup each of flour, of all-purpose flour and breadcrumbs. 2 more eggs, and 1 to 2 cups of veggie oil for frying. So I'm going to go check on the pot in the kitchen that I've got that's trying to boil. So once that pot of water is boiling, we'll actually move into the kitchen and start cooking this recipe up. The water is boiling, so we're going to, without splashing water everywhere, put the potatoes in. Whoa, easy does it. I mean, water's going to probably splash everywhere as the potatoes cook. Ow! That's what I was afraid of. Like I said, I'm trying to do this without causing water to splash everywhere. Easy does it. Oh, I think I must have had my hand right in the water. Ah! Whoa, okay. This is the problem here. The problem here is I'm trying to get these close enough to the water that they're not going to splash without getting my hand actually in the water. So that's proving to be a bit more of an episode than I would like, but no help for that, I don't think. Or if it splashes, I want it to be light. I mean, I'm probably going to have water sizzling around no matter how I do this, but that water level I think is probably a bit too high. Especially once I got the potatoes in there. Fortunately, it's just water, so it shouldn't cause any problems. Alright, so once we get everything in here, I may see if I can... Whoa! I may see if I can scoop some of this water out. The question is if I have a container that I'm going to wash my hands off first. Actually, I probably do have a container that would be able to survive getting into boiling hot water. One of these ceramic mugs should work. See if I can siphon a little bit of this off just so it's not going to go sizzling everywhere. I mean, it is just water, so it's not going to cause too many problems. I wouldn't be as alarmed about water sizzling around as I would be for oil, which we're going to have a step of that. We're going to have a step with oil later in the recipe. And I think if we go one more, that should be fine. Looks like there's still plenty of water in there. I tend to use I don't know if you can see in there. I'll see if I can zoom in on it a little bit. If you can see in here, there are actually a couple of ridges that I tend to use as a guideline for filling water, or for putting water in the pot when I'm preparing it to boil. The problem is I put that in, the problem might be that I use that before I put any of the stuff I'm going to be cooking in the pot in. So that might even be a little bit too high. It's usually not a huge problem when I'm putting my egglets in there to do my hard-boiled eggs for the week, but it's something I probably need to be a little bit more aware of as I continue to cook in the kitchen. But we'll let these stir up a little bit. So we're going to keep an eye on this, but what we're aiming for here is we want the potatoes to be, I believe they say soft in the recipe. Yes. So fork tender is probably going to be a good place to start with that. Maybe a couple minutes after we get to fork tender, which these are obviously nowhere near yet because they just went in. So we'll keep an eye on that while the potatoes boil. So I've actually while we're waiting for this, just to kind of chat a little bit about Mystical Munchies. I've really been enjoying this segment because it's helping me experiment a little bit more in the kitchen. And amazingly enough as well, I think it might also be helping me with my weight loss journey because it's forcing me to because it's helping me try different recipes and seeing what other things I might like. I'm going to zoom that back out a little bit. In fact, as of my last weigh-in, which was yesterday, I'm down... Let me see if I can find it here. As of my last weigh-in, I'm actually down 25 pounds. So I'm getting near to my weight that I graduated college at 190, which actually is not the lowest I've ever gone in my life. I've actually gone as low as 175, which is where I was gaining the COVID weight back from. So I still got a little ways to go. I've got about, let me see if I can math that out. I've got about another 18 pounds to go before I get back down to my pre-COVID weight of 175. So it looks like this is starting to boil. Okay. Looks like those are starting to... A pretty good guideline as far as when they're tender enough might be when they break apart with when I press into them with a wooden spoon. Obviously not near that point yet, but we'll just let this continue to simmer. I do apologize for, it may be a little bit boring to actually watch these recipes cook, but I think that was one of the problems I had when I made the no-bake cookies way back when, was I turned the camera off while the milk mixture was boiling, and I think that contributed to watching the milk, and that contributed to the milk boiling way too long and drying those cookies out like nobody's business. So I tend to overcompensate for, let me actually watch everything cook in real time, especially when something needs to happen basically like that. So, like I said, it might make for a boring video on occasion, but it makes it. But I find it makes it less likely for me to mess up some of these recipes. Actually, that's starting to boil again quite nicely, so we'll give a check. Okay, we're We're starting to get near that fork tender point, but still not a point where I would trust a potato masher, because I'm probably going to have to I'm probably going to have to mash these by hand. Yeah, they're getting to that fork tender point, but I think I want them breaking apart with at least the fork, if not the wooden spoon as well. So I think that's the point we're probably going to aim for. We've definitely got water splashing out, but a lot less water, I think, splashing out since I siphoned some of it out. Okay. Quick stir. Thankfully, we don't need to preserve any of the water here, because I do have a recipe that I've made a lot in the past where I would need to preserve the water, and I'm going to turn the fan on. I'm going to turn my range hood fan on. That's actually loud. I'm going to turn that on low so I can try to vent some of that steam out. Try to keep things moving here. Okay, I think we're starting to get to that point where I want to be in terms of these potatoes are breaking apart with the fork. I maybe want to boil these I would say another 3 minutes at the most, but even that might be. Well, I think the softer the better once we start getting ready to mash these. Because like I said, I'm going to use a hand masher to do that step. So, I know, totally riveting stuff to watch potatoes boil. Okay, we're definitely at fork tender point, because we're into the potatoes easily. But like I said, I think I want to wait. I want to wait to be sure until they're breaking apart when I stick the fork in them. Because I'm gonna have to be able to break these apart with the potato masher in there. So if they're already somewhat apart going into the mashing bowl, that'll make my life easier. It's still definitely at fork tender. Also, while we're waiting, I have had a few of the Mystical Munchies. Mystical Munchies' scheduling for that has actually been a little sporadic, just because I usually go play at the game store on most Saturdays. As of late, I've been kind of inconsistent in terms of when Mystical Munchies goes up. Sometimes it'll go up Friday, sometimes it'll go up Saturday, sometimes it'll go up Sunday. I'm beginning to think that the best time for Mystical Munchies to go up might be Sunday, but I'll try to keep to the Saturday schedule if I can. Just wanted you guys to know that that's something I'm also kicking around with in terms of Mystical Munchies. But alright, we are at fork tender, and these might actually be soft enough to go into the... These actually might be soft enough to start mashing, so I'm going to turn off the camera so I can drain the potatoes, and then when we come back, we'll have the mixing bowl ready to go. I just went ahead and killed the range hood fan. So now we're going to find out if I took these off quick enough, if I took these off at the right time, or if I should have waited longer. So we've got the half a stick of butter right here that I'm going to just roll and put in. Then we're going to mash these potatoes up. Is there any kind of... Nope, just mash, okay? Let's see if we got these. Okay, I think this will work fine. Okay, I think we made this. I think this worked out fine. I was a little bit paranoid about how easily these potatoes would mash using the masher, but clearly it's all going to work out. I'm hoping these will cool a little bit more, though, because I'm going to need to form these into balls at some point, and if I'm being perfectly honest, burning my hands is not high on my list of things I want to do today. So hopefully we can get this mixture to cool off the more we work with it. Otherwise, I do have a scoop off camera ready to go that I can use for that. Okay, so there's probably no point in getting maniacal about mashing these things. So there are potatoes all mashed up. That bowl is still pretty hot, but nature of the beast there. So now we want to take the cheese and stir until combined. I'm just going to dump the whole container of cheese in because I normally I don't buy sharp cheddar cheese. I normally buy mild. So we're just going to take the whole thing, dump it in. Let's see, what did I do with the... There it is. Just going to get that in the garbage. I'm also trying to work on cleanup as I go here. All right, then we want to stir that until combined, and then cool for 5 minutes. So that's actually going to be very helpful. I've got my wooden spoon that I was using to stir the potatoes earlier. Okay. Right, that is all nice and stirred up. I should be able to scrape some of that off. Okay. Then we'll set a timer for 5 minutes. Here we go. We'll set a timer for 5 minutes and we'll come back once the potatoes have some time to cool. Now we're going to take the egg yolks that we separated out earlier, the 1.5 tablespoons of parsley. Parsley is right here. I've got a 1/2 tablespoon here. One, that'll be a generous 1, 2, 3, maybe a little more than that. There we go. Okay. That can move over there. The parsley can go back up. And a teaspoon each of salt. Oh. Okay, let me see if I can break this salt up a little bit. Okay, yeah, that seems like that salt's a little more broken up now. And pepper. A teaspoon of that. And then now we want to stir again until combined. So I'll go back to my wooden spoon and we'll give this a quick stir. I'm worried about how these, I was worried coming in about how these might hold, how these will hold together. I think my bigger worry is probably going to be how hot are they going to be when I go to form them into the aforementioned balls that I was talking about earlier. With the resistance I'm encountering trying to get through this, yeah, like I said, with the resistance I'm encountering, I don't think holding is going to be a problem. So I think that's as combined as it's going to get. I'll scrape some of that back out. All right, so now that that's done, I'm going to, we'll bring this out of shot for a second. So we can bring a couple things we're going to need. I've lined a baking sheet with foil. And let's see what we can do with the... Okay, it's probably cool. It feels like it's cool enough that I could form it. Let's see what happens with my hand. Oh. Never mind, I think I was just being paranoid. Okay, so I think that's all good there. Then I'm not going to do all of these on camera. We'll come back when I'm all done with making these croquettes. Here are the croquettes formed into balls. I was only able to get about 27 out. Apparently you're supposed to be able to make 46, but that's all I was able to do. So I'll get these out of shot, but I don't want to go too far with these. I was worried. I know I've talked a few times in this recipe about being a bit worried about how hot the potatoes were going to be in my hands, but they actually held together pretty well. So now we're going to bring 2 of the 3 pie plates that we need into shot. See if I can move the camera slightly to get all 3. What's the order we're going to... and another... Beat the eggs, roll each in flour, then the eggs, and the breadcrumbs. Okay, so I think we're just going to go from... I think we're going to go from left to right. So this one's going to get the flour in it. So this one wants a cup of flour. We'll stay close with that in case we end up needing more. We shouldn't, though. Spread that out a bit. See if we can keep as much of the flour as we can in there. I'll have to wash my hands off a little bit. Okay. In the next one, we're going to beat 2 eggs. So here are our eggs. One. And of course I can't puncture it with my knuckle. Fortunately, the countertop can. 2 eggs. All right, the eggs can now go back in the fridge as well. We'll go ahead and beat these eggs. Hopefully we won't have too many problems. Not when we poke them like that. We should be fine there. Okay. We can get the whisk out of the way. Then in the last one, we'll put the cup of breadcrumbs. And I put the cup in with the flour. So I'm actually going to grab a new cup container from down below. Or we can just use this and count out. We can just use a half cup and count out 2. We'll do that. Rather than potentially risk cross-contamination. Easy does it. Hang on. Okay. Well, not quite what I had in mind, but we can work around this most likely. One. Two. There's a cup of breadcrumbs. I'll get these covered as well. We need another clip. Those can go, where did I put the box? Oh, the box is right here. Right, those can get closed. And then that can go back up. Then for demonstration purposes, I'll do a few of these. So, as we established, the order that they want is in the flour, then the eggs, then the breadcrumbs. So we'll bring these over here. Flour. Then the eggs. I guess cross-contamination is going to be a thing anyway, so I was probably being a little bit paranoid. And then the breadcrumbs. Okay. We'll do a couple more of those just for demonstration purposes. Flour, then the eggs. Then the breadcrumbs. And we'll do one more. Flour, eggs, breadcrumbs, and then rather than bore you guys with that mantra for about 20 minutes, I'll shut the camera off and we'll come back when the croquettes are all ready to go for the next step. The eggs weren't adhering particularly well to the potatoes, so that's why these croquettes kind of look a little bit spotty in terms of the breadcrumbs. But there they are, all floured, egged, and breaded. So now we're just waiting for the oil. I'll bring you over to the stove. Now we're just waiting for the oil to heat up over medium-high heat. I'll adjust the spot on the burner slightly. So the cookbook, the recipe doesn't actually specify a temperature that it wants you to get the oil up to. It just says over medium-high heat. So I'm assuming, I'm just kind of, as a general rule of thumb, when I'm doing any kind of baking or cooking like this, I generally kind of use 350 as my general rule of thumb for where I want to be in terms of what temperature I want to get either the oven or oil like this up to. So as a more nutritious option too, you could, instead of frying these, you can bake them at 375 for 20 minutes. Just drizzle with oil before you put them in the oven. So we'll just wait for the oil to finish heating up. I'm also looking somewhat panicked at a pile of dishes I've got back here, plus what's still to come over here. To say nothing of eventually the taste test as well. But I'm getting way ahead of myself on all of those fronts. So, yeah, there have been some problems that I've been having with this recipe. Like I said, I was worried about how well the eggs would... I was worried about how hot the potatoes would be to handle to form them into the balls I needed them to be. Then I was worried about how Then the next worry was about how everything would adhere. Now I'm a little bit nervous because I'm still kind of feeling my way around using oil a little bit in the kitchen. So, largely I'm still kind of feeling my way around the kitchen a little bit. A lot of these recipes on Mystical Munchies are kind of new experiences for me, whether it's using the blender or cooking with oil or using a food processor. So, as I mentioned earlier, I'm actually having some good success on my weight loss journey. And I think some of that is just mixing up the recipes I try. even if they don't all turn out to be hits. Like I'm talking to you, Yab Shrimp Noodle Salad from last month. Because I actually did not, if you remember that recipe in particular, I did not end up liking that recipe. There was an aftertaste there I didn't care for, but we won't get into that too much here. We don't look to be too far from temperature, and looking at the stock pot I'm using, I'm thinking it'll probably be about batches of 6 I'll fry these in. That shouldn't let the oil rise too high. Maybe I'll see what I think as I start frying these up. But this might be something I end up having to play by ear. We'll find out though. The oil is, we're at 316 right now and still climbing. 318. Where can I put this? So I can actually read it. I don't want to put it on the, that's the thermometer I've got. I'm trying to put that somewhere where, okay, if I angle at it slightly, it was working. Okay, this kind of works where I can just watch it from, the sink while we wait for the oil to heat up. I do apologize. It's probably a little bit of a bad shot with where I've got with the stock pot there, but I'd rather not be looking over the top into oil. That seems like a very bad idea to me. But that's just my opinion on the matter. We're at 333 and climbing. We're not too far from being able to start frying these up. 334. I know this is the boring part of watching paint. It's like watching paint dry at this point, but again, it helps me keep the rest. Like I mentioned earlier, it makes it less likely that I'm going to botch these recipes if we watch some of the boring stuff happen in real time, so that I can react when instantaneously, especially if something needs to be instantaneous, like it has been in the past for, I think there was a cookie recipe in the first cookbook I cooked out of where I needed pretty much an instantaneous reaction. So sometimes it helps to just watch everything in real time, rather than try to get cute with, hey, we'll turn on the camera at this point. And we are going to have a pretty loud sound on the thermometer when the oil gets up to temperature, so I would say this is probably like your 30-second warning of get your headphones off. Maybe 10. Yeah, 10. Okay, you can shut up. You've done your job. That's the thermometer. So I'll see if I can lift that out, preferably without any kind of heat. There we go. Do that, bring that over to the sink, and then we'll put in the first batch of the croquettes. So once again, I'm going to try not to splash this. Gotta be careful when you're dealing with hot oil. You don't want to splash everywhere. That actually seems to be deep enough that I can get it in. There we go. Okay, looks like that's about, I can probably get one more in there. I'm not going to chance it. We're actually just going to leave I'm going to cook these in batches of 5. I'd rather not have hot oil splashing everywhere. That seems like a really dangerous plan to me. Okay. Move that spoon rest up. All right, we'll give the first ones another couple of minutes as they fry up. Just kind of watching them from out here. All right, we can put those first couple back in. Okay. Looks like we got one trying to come up. We'll give those about another. We'll give this first one about another minute. This first batch about another minute. Okay. I probably could get another one or two in there if I wanted to, but like I said, I'd rather not take a chance with having oil splashing everywhere. That seems like a very dangerous plan to me. But so we'll just play it safe here. Nothing cute here. Alright, this should be good for another look. And we're looking for, what are we looking for here? I think golden brown, isn't it? Yes, until golden brown. Look at that. Try to let as much of the oil drip off as we can. Look at that. Okay, so that's what we're going for. I can probably pull this first batch out. And once we do that, look at that. Okay, easy does it. Let's, whoa. Okay, actually what I probably should be doing is bringing the plate to the croquettes, not the other way around. All right, we can get those off. We'll get the next batch of croquettes in. Easy does it. Trying not to burn myself on these. Okay, got that batch in. So I'm going to fry these up in batches of like 5. And then when these are all done, I'll see you guys back in my desk for the taste test. I've got the croquettes over here, and I'm not going to just start mowing on these, even though it is dinner time. And my stomach is very much sending me nasty grams. I'm welcome on the timing on the taste test though, so let's go ahead and find one of these and give it a try. The recipe does say to serve them hot, so I don't think they're going to keep well as leftovers, but let's find out. The texture is good on these. I'm actually surprised at how well they adhered. There were a few points where I was nervous about how everything was going to hold together, but it seems like everything held together fine. So I kind of was thinking a little bit, Jester had asked me a question a while back about some of these recipes on Mystical Munchies, and if I've ever had anything that was really knocked my socks off good, where I was like, oh my god, this is the greatest recipe in the world. As you can see, if you've been watching all of my episodes of Mystical Munchies, the answer to that question is truthfully no, I haven't had any knock your socks off good recipes. The reasons why might surprise you, though. So, one of the main reasons is, as I factor in the work I do on these recipes to make them, since I live alone, I have to cook everything alone, so if a recipe is a lot of work, I'm probably going to file this away under maybe comes out once, maybe comes out a few times a year. This one was definitely in the a lot of work category. But again, since I live alone, I'm kind of looking at it through that lens. But there was also a quote I heard at Weight Watchers. I couldn't even tell you when I heard this quote for the first time. Maybe 2013 would be my guess. But that's also that's also kind of a lens I look at these recipes through. And it's just kind of stuck with me all the years of my weight loss journey, where the quote goes like this: "Nothing tastes as good as being thin feels." And as I've tried to get serious again about losing the weight, I've been really trying to keep that quote in my mind, especially on these episodes of Mystical Munchies, where I'm not really going to react to a lot of recipes as they're like, oh my god, this is the greatest thing in the world, because I'm kind of looking at it through that lens of, okay, how is this going to fit into my weight loss journey? That kind of thing. So that's just my random musings on that. But that is another episode of Mystical Munchies in the books. Next week, we're on to the entree, codfish and chips. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone. Thank you.